Welcome to this week's Beyond Bitcoin Hangout. These hangouts are brought to you by the Beyond Bitcoin crew. We encourage everyone to freely share these recordings and to help spread the knowledge and benefits of our DPost 2.0 blockchain technology that we all call BitShares. While listening to this recording, please feel free to visit our website, beyondbitcoin.org, and be sure to stay tuned in for some additional information at the end of the recording. As always, we would like to say thank you, and we appreciate your support. So please continue to vote for our delegate or worker contract so we may continue providing these valuable services to our community members. So once again, welcome, and please enjoy this week's Hangout.
Welcome everybody to another Beyond Bitcoin Hangout. Today is Friday, November 6th, 2015. Today is really close to BitShares, ProtoShares, Angel Shares 2-year anniversary. So all of the stuff we are doing today is definitely a little bit different than what I think all of us were thinking we would be doing 2 years ago. But we've gone pretty far from that time. With that said, this really hasn't changed. The format hasn't changed or anything here in terms of how this is going to go. Bytemaster joins us every Friday for updates on the cryptonomics side of BitShares and what's being worked on. Slowly, you will start seeing other people coming in who may be on committee, working on other various projects for BitShares, but Bytemaster has been doing this for nearly 2 years now as well, joining up and meeting the investors, donators, however you want to call them, in the community, members who have questions and want to actively participate in the governance and decision-making process that is necessary for BitShares to grow. So Bytemaster comes in here, gives us updates every week, and we open it up for community to ask questions and give comments. With that said, Bytemaster, I'm going to step back and hand you the torch and let you proceed with your updates.
All right. It's been another busy week. We've made a lot of progress as a company. Cryptonomex is in a better situation than it's ever been before. I can't say the details, but we're here to stay to continue to do things for the BitShares network for a while. So that's all good. Some of the things that we've been thinking about this past week are how to think about blockchains and BitShares in particular, so that we can grow our user base and how we can think about what gives BitShares value. And one of the things I've realized is that there is no reason why we cannot completely replicate the user experience of any centralized exchange. There's no reason for users to have to worry about passwords and or backups and keys and all this other blockchain related stuff. If we can get the user experience so that you can come use BitShares, it's just like using the best of Polynex and Bitstamp and whatever other exchanges people might like, then we will have achieved our goal. So that means a lot of things. We are working on a new backend for the server to automatically back up people's wallets. So the private keys will be stored encrypted on the server, and it'll be up to the users to make sure that their username and password are secure enough not to be brute forced. The server will only return wallets to users who can validate their email. We're still working on some of the details there, but the general idea is you should be able to log into your account from any device and have access to your funds, just like you can with the centralized exchanges. So there's that. The other side of this is the business model of BitShares. We keep trying to reinvent different aspects of proven business models. I think we would do very well to follow proven business models. It's less of a barrier for people to learn how to use the system if it's just the same as everywhere else they go. Hopefully a little bit better. There's been a lot of discussion and debate about transaction fees and I believe that transaction fees as a whole are a major impediment to mass user adoption. People don't like being nickel and dimed. When I was traveling this week, I asked the guy next to me on the plane, what does he not like about his bank? And he said that his bank charges him fees for every little thing. And I think we can all relate that no one likes being constantly reminded that they're going through tolls, right? So having a decentralized blockchain, we have this need of anti-spam, so we charge fees for everything. But I think we can do better. And at the same time, I don't want to undermine the referral program. So the goal is to make more money charging, even though we're not charging fees on everything. So we're actively looking at ways to eliminate the fees for just about everything except market trades. And if you're doing market trades, there's going to be some fees there. So this is, of course, just a proposal. I think it's probably going to be universally accepted. The goal is to actually increase the revenue of BitShares as a whole, while at the same time improving the user experience by not throwing fees in people's face to do every little thing. This means that we're going to have other anti-spam tactics that are going to go into place. And those things include rate limiting. So each account can do transactions, but only so many transactions per day, unless their account gets upgraded. Things along those lines, as the way of preventing spam while keeping fees low and making it up in the trading. Which means we really want to encourage people to use the exchange as an exchange. I think exchanges are the single most profitable business in the entire cryptocurrency space. And we should try to replicate their success and go beyond it. There's no reason why we as a decentralized community cannot compete with the likes of Bitstamp and the others for the same customers and the same revenue stream. So one of the things that helps us gain users and generate fees is to have unique assets that are trading, assets that aren't available on other exchanges, and at the same time also being able to trade all the assets that are on other exchanges. So we're going to continue to work with the various partners out there to get as many altcoins as possible on our platform, and at the same time have our unique product be prediction markets that people can trade on. If there's lots of trading going on in prediction markets, that will generate lots of revenue for BitShares, and everyone can win. A lot of this work is work that's going to have to take place over the coming months. But if we view BitShares as an exchange, we know the equation necessary to make exchanges successful. And it comes down to one thing, volume. We want to get volume on our exchange, and we got to get the user experience to be similar to the other exchanges. So in order to achieve all that, it's going to take a lot of time and money. So we're going to create a worker proposal with a detailed outline of various steps along this. So we're going to focus primarily on bridging the gaps between a centralized exchange website and the BitShares user experience first. So that means making sure that the login, password recovery type stuff is there. That means making sure things like fiat deposit and withdrawal work and work in a way that people are used to having it work, as well as making sure all the contact information is there for support and the like. So if you want to picture where BitShares is and where it's going, it's at basically an alpha stage quality of an exchange, and it's going toward being a full-featured competitor to the other exchanges out there, where our differentiating quality is that our security is the best that's out there, and it's as open as possible compared to all the other exchanges out there. So if we can get more and more people to use our exchange, then we win. And you can estimate the expected profitability from all of this based upon the projected volume and assuming similar trading fees to the competition. So you would probably expect as some users increase in volume, the fees will go down. But if you really wanted to analyze the business model and the investment potential, look at it that way. It means that we're taking a lot of the guesswork out of what we're doing. We've got a clear set of requirements. We know exactly what the user experience needs to be because of looking at the other exchanges, and that's the direction we're going to take. Now, anyone have any problems with that direction?
Yeah, I guess I do. I want to know how it doesn't undermine the referral system. Banks don't give you a chance to make a lot of money. And I still think trading altcoins and the exchange thing is a little tiny ghetto, whereas BitShares can appeal to masses of people.
All right. Well, those are some very good points. So I'd like to point out that the market we're going after for exchanging is not just altcoin ghetto stuff. It's prediction markets of all types. The altcoin ghetto, I agree, is a niche market. And if you look at the total volume of all altcoins, you can get an estimate of, if we had 1% of that, how much revenue would that actually be? It's not very much. But if you look at the volume of things like sport betting, betting on politics, betting on all kinds of other prediction market systems, there's a lot of volume there and a lot of users there. When it comes to charging people transfer fees and things like that for merchants, I can see some value with there, but we need to be very careful because most people are used to the fact that they can write a check and it's free. They can do an intra-bank transfer and it's free. They can do peer-to-peer and PayPal and it's free, which means until we've got a really solid, highly liquid market for BitUSD, we don't even have a solid currency with which to approach merchants. So the priorities need to be get the exchange up and running so that we can have the assets there that can then serve as a currency. And then once we have an asset that can serve as a currency, then we might say, well, yeah, there seems to be a lot of trades going on with merchants. Maybe we can put a fee on that and increase our revenue, and people will still pay it. But right now, I think that focusing on the exchange aspect is what's going to generate the most transaction volume and generate the use case that's going to have the people. Well, people will be willing to pay the highest fees without feeling like they're being cheated.
There's a few questions, if you don't mind me popping in here with them. It seems like this topic has kind of gotten the community interested in asking. That T-Bone says that all sounds awesome, but what about the pooled liquidity problem?
Pooled liquidity is a real challenge. It requires the market to have, you need one asset to pool liquidity, and a Bitcoin on Open Ledger is not the same as a Bitcoin on block trades. It's not the same as a Bitcoin in the bunker. They might seem that way, but they're different issuers with different creditworthiness. So you can't just pool the liquidity and say, well, I want to buy something. Give me any one of those three, because you actually care which one it is. Because when you go to sell it, well, now you're trying to sell it for something else. And those are, it's just not possible to pool liquidity of assets of different types. The blockchain itself helps increase the liquidity because the opportunity to do instantaneous arbitrage of if there's a price difference in two different markets, you can buy and sell all in the same transaction. That means it's a better environment with no latency between exchanges. So at the end of the day, it means all the different smaller markets actually do improve in liquidity, because if there's an arbitrage opportunity, then the people who trust two issuers will take that opportunity out very quickly. So you get a lot of benefits. Just the it's like having Poloniex and BTC 38. If the price of BitShares deviates too much on one exchange, people are going to move money, buy it where it's cheap and sell it where it's expensive until the prices equalize. And the prices can only deviate between the two exchanges to the extent that the cost and time associated with moving the money exceeds the profit, or the risk there is too high to justify it. So spreads can only exist for so long. And when everyone's on the same blockchain, the time it takes to normalize the price between two different markets is incredibly small. So if you have a large amount that you'd like to sell for one asset, you can place a sell order and let it sit there, and then let everyone else come to you to fill it. And the market will provide the liquidity. You'll basically pay a slightly higher fee in order to incentivize people to do the arbitrage. But the liquidity would still be there, and that's what you care about.
T-Bone has just one more question that kind of rolls into this. Why is it that it is necessary for each to have their own token?
Because they're not the same. If you have Mt. Gox BTC and Bitstamp BTC, why is it necessary for them to have their own token? That's obvious.
Well, it makes sense to that. I mean, people probably wouldn't want to buy Mt. Gox BTC over Bitstamp BTC, right?
Well, maybe the question would be rather, and I don't know if this is T-Bone's question, but what's the difference, or what's preventing people from directly bridging into BitBTC, the market pegged asset, or is that something that you see can only happen obviously when there's more liquidity, or what exactly is the dynamics there that would prevent exchanges from just selling people BTC outright for their BTC?
There needs to be a market. There needs to be a market between BitBTC and OpenBTC and Trade BTC, because those markets will set the premium of the conversion between the two. And you need one in order to have the other. And once you have the markets between BTC and BTC, then it's possible for someone to do a shapeshift meta exchange style bridging for a fixed fee. But those bridges depend upon markets that are establishing prices. And it's very difficult to bridge from Bitcoin directly to BitBTC if you have to go through BitShares in the internal market, and the price of the two relative to each other is relatively volatile. So you have to build these things up in phases. Matures, I would gather a lot of the liquidity will migrate to BitBTC and BitUSD and so on, because those represent the collateralized positions. Those represent the trust-free positions. But it's baby steps. You've got to walk before you can. You got to crawl before you can walk, and then we can get there. So someone said that this represents a significant change for CNX with respect to eliminating fees. We always had fees. It's just a question of what do you want to charge fees on, and we knew that we would not be able to set fees correctly. That's why we parameterized them. We don't have one fee for everything. We have fees on every little thing so that we could pick and choose and adapt to what generates the most amount of fees to maximize the revenue for the referral program. So we're not really changing our perspective. We're just recognizing that sometimes charging no fees for one thing can allow you to charge more for something else, and the user will be happier. Because I can't tell you how tired I am of reading things like our exchange fees are higher when they're not. For 99.9% of users, they're not higher. And even for most trading bots that are doing high volume, it's not higher. It just has the appearance of being higher, and it's causing users to feel the pain more often because they see the fee constantly in their face. I would say the analogy for understanding fees, as I'm coming to appreciate, is it's kind of like the difference between the income tax and the sales tax. If you actually had to write the government a check for the thousands and thousands of dollars at the end of the year, most people would be terrified at how much they're paying. But people seem more concerned about the small little taxes and fees that show up on their phone bill and sales tax on every single receipt, because those are in your face constantly, even though they represent a smaller portion of your total tax bill, which means that the governments realize they can collect more taxes by hiding it, making it come out automatically and making it a percentage, and users just never see it. Whereas it's the same kind of thing here. If we constantly remind people that they're being billed, it's negative reinforcement. And we want to say, oh, no, here you go. You made the trade and here's your profits. And any fee is just an error in the price, right? It's in the noise of the market environment. And people feel a lot better about that, even if technically they end up paying more. So give the customer what they want, even if they pay more.
Ken Code asked here, are we finally back to Puppy's dynamic fees idea? And I remember reading it a while back, but I'm not 100% remembering all of it. Does Ken Code, would you like to explain it? Or Bytemaster, do you have opinions or an explanation?
Percentage-based fees in the market are already there. Percentage-based fees on transfers violate. The challenge there is just knowing what the value of the token is. And the percentage of what? It's just hard to know. So there are some tokens where we could do a percentage-based fee, but if you use anything like the price feed or market data, that data changes between the time the user approves the transaction and the time it gets confirmed, and there's lots of edge cases there. So I like to avoid as much as possible those types of edge cases.
Thomas is talking about something. I thought it was valuable. He says it seems similar to the problem in the 1700s when each state having their own currency, standardizing the currency, i.e. centralization of it, eliminated that arbitrage to the benefit of the people, if only centralization could be non-corruptible.
At the end of the day, if you want to centralize, you first have to integrate. So you first need to have all the banks in the 1700s on one trading platform. And then once everyone's on one trading platform, arbitrage disappears and all the currencies start to approach the same value. And then on the BitShares network, the bid assets start to become easier to trade against everything else. Those end up being collateralized by BitShares, and there you go. You have your standardization on global currency. But first you have to get everyone onto one platform.
Fabdiso says here, if you void most of the fees, why should you pay for a lifetime membership? If there's no demand for that, that's the end of the referral program. Do you agree with this or disagree?
Not voiding most of the fees. And of course, this is not me doing it. This is just my proposal. I'm changing all the fees into the market. So the value of the lifetime membership is, would you buy a lifetime membership at Poloniex if they gave you a discount on every single one of your trades? It makes perfect sense. So it all depends on what type of user are you. Are you someone who's using it to purchase and do peer-to-peer payments? Then maybe that type of user doesn't want to upgrade to a lifetime membership. But if you're someone who wants to go there and trade in the prediction markets and the altcoin exchanges, then it makes a lot of sense to get a lifetime membership. So it really depends on picking the audience. And I think that we want to replace credit cards and we want to replace dollars as a means of payment and remittances, and we want to replace wire transfers. But in order for BitShares to have a good product for those applications in terms of BitUSD, we've got to nail down the traders. If we don't have the traders, then we don't have the wire transfer, and it's end of story.
It seems like it makes sense to me. I mean, I'm not a trader though, so I'm open to anybody who has any questions or comments regarding trading. I've noticed as I've been on the forums that It seems like that's one place where maybe we can focus a little bit more on in these mumble hangouts to make sure that people understand what's going on in terms of the trading and parameters that have been set or proposed changes. Bytemaster, this is just a proposal. You said you guys are going to be putting this on the forums for people to look over and, comment on, correct?
Yes. What we're going to do is we want to have a clear outline of this is what we're going to work on for BitShares, with a priority of the things that we're going to be working on, as well as a budget for doing this stuff. And then we'll have a worker proposal, and if it gets funded, then that's the direction we're going to go.
One question I had in regard to these fees, I mean, maybe I'm misunderstanding you, Bytemaster, but it almost sounds like you're saying, well, in general, we're not going to reduce the amount of revenue and fees we're taking. We're just going to shuffle it and move it around to where you're paying it in another manner, hiding it as you described, taking it off from our being in our face. Well, if we're going to pay it anyways, then it almost seems like you're withholding the terms of a contract. It's almost like an adhesion contract or something where you're paying anyways, but you're not being told exactly how you're paying. Now, I think that's a misunderstanding, but that's kind of what I'm feeling from what you've said.
It's just like any other exchange. You're paying theirs, or like Google. They give everything away for free, but you're paying for it with the advertisements that you have to get, or you're paying for it with all the metadata they're collecting on you. We're not trying to, as a business, you just have to pick. Well, we've got 40 different products. Which ones are going to be our loss leaders, and which ones are going to be our profit centers? And if we start charging on some types of operations and it causes us to lose money in our profit centers, it's a bad business decision. So we're not trying to hide anything from users. We're just trying to charge what the market will bear to maximize the profits of the system. And every user knows or could know the fees that they're paying at any given point in time. It's just us choosing which fees we're going to charge and which ones not. We're not really trying to hide it from the users. We're just trying to make it not feel as bad to the user, right? Make the user not mind paying the fee, because that creates better user experience. That causes people to stick around and spend more.
That makes sense. I think that helps a bit. I'll wait and review what you put out there in a proposal to really understand it better. Thanks.
It sounds to me like you're tailoring the fees to the use case. So people who want to trade quite often, the likelihood is that they're going to, like using a bot, they're going to want to have that membership. So it's because it's going to save them a lot of money over time. So it's taxing people who are going to use certain aspects that are going to cost the network, who are going to actually use it more than the average user. Is that kind of a boiling it down of this idea effectively?
Yeah, the idea is essentially, if you're a low volume user, it's free. If you're a power user, you pay. And if you're a power user and you're going to be paying a lot, then it makes sense to get a lifetime membership to get a discount. So it's sort of like Google offering free email account, and you get 100 megs of storage. If you want gigabytes of storage, you can pay. I guess it's slightly different than that now, but when it first came out, you got a certain amount for free, and if you needed more, you paid. So you get a certain number of transactions for free, and if you need more, you pay. And that way, most users who are just dabbling, getting used to it, trying it out, they're not paying anything. They feel good about it. And if they see value in what we have, they want to use it more, then they won't mind paying because they see the value. But until people see the value and experience it and use it a lot, it's
get a habit.
Yeah. So there are other ways of implementing this, by the way. One way is to pre-fund every account that is created with a certain amount of BTS that can only be used to pay fees, which basically means your first $10 worth of fees are free, and after that you pay. But we just have to figure that kind of thing out.
I'm interested in that, and I'm also interested in hearing exactly where all of the referral fees are going to change to. It sounds to me like it's just going to generally be free until somebody gets that lifetime membership, and then it'll still work that way.
From my perspective as a user and or trader and or referrer, I would rather have a cut of a percentage of volume than a cut of the small little transaction fees we're having now. So if you've referred someone or you have a lifetime membership and you plan on doing any trading whatsoever, these proposed changes are going to save you a lot more money and make you a lot more money than the rules we had before. So it's better for everyone, both the referrers and the users, and the perception and the feelings. This is all mental and psychology. It has nothing to do with objective measures of cost or value or anything like that. So, if I have a fault, it's that I'm too objective and I'm not very good at managing the perception and the irrational nature of people and what they want. But
that does in fact exist, doesn't it?
We can rationally serve the irrational needs of others, and that's what we should try to do.
I want to go back to something you said early when you started talking, Bytemaster, about having the wallets being centralized on a server and having them encrypted and well protected. I'm still a little bit confused about overall architecture. Cass and I were talking online in the forum about what the graphene toolkit actually is, and he made some statements that really confused me about just exactly what it is. My understanding of the toolkit was that, well, it's basically the API that's built into the witness node. And then your issue of the light wallet is another thing that's come to mind recently that I don't fully understand. And then you just mentioned a server where wallets are stored in a centralized location as opposed to being in the browser, which is what I thought all of our models were so far.
Right now, there's a continuum. If you're a power user and you download a light wallet, the keys will be kept locally on your machine. They won't be going to a server. But if you're in the browser, now we got to worry about your browser being cached, and we got to require users to back up and then import. That's just not a viable approach. And so there's this continuum between ease of use and security, and it's not necessarily linear. Sometimes making things easier to use makes things more secure, even though it's technically less secure. What I mean by that is your risk of being hacked by backing up your wallet on a central server could be lower than your risk of forgetting it or losing your backup or your computer, whatever. User error could be a higher risk than security of the server. And so for a large class of users who want to use it in a browser and want to migrate between devices and want to not have to worry about backups other than their password, they want to use the server as a place to back it up. No password will ever be sent to the server. The server will only return to you an encrypted wallet file, and the wallet file will be decrypted in the browser, and so the browser will still be doing all of the signing and everything else associated with your account. From a user experience point of view, we will not be able to compete with the centralized exchanges if you have to worry about clearing your cache, causing you to lose all the money on the exchange.
Right. Well, that's the nature of the question. Is if you tie what you just said to real world, what exists right now. For example, is the Open Ledger browser? It resides in the Open Ledger wallet resides in the browser. If I clear my cache, I've lost it. It's not on the Open Ledger server somewhere. So the light wallet is different. Can you explain these differences and these distinctions as what exists right now and what you're thinking about migrating to?
What exists right now is the files for the light wallet are stored on your computer, and they can't change without you downloading a new light wallet. The files on Open Ledger are hosted, and they can change every time you reload the page. So basically, reloading the page is downloading a new wallet. Both systems query the Open Ledger server for information about the blockchain. Neither system stores private keys on the server. What we're proposing is that if you're using the website version that can update every time you reload the page, you're already trusting the server with your keys implicitly. If the server gets compromised and the JavaScript gets uploaded such that you download a version of the wallet, the next time you unlock it, it's going to send the keys off to some third party, you've just been compromised. In other words, you're implicitly trusting the server anyway, so we shouldn't degrade the user experience there, and we should allow the keys to be uploaded to the server in an encrypted format that the server has no ability to decrypt. If someone compromised the server and got a copy of everyone's wallet, they would still have to brute force your username and password, which means primarily what we'd be doing, extra checks on the password you create for your wallet to make sure that it has sufficient entropy to be difficult to brute force. At the same time, we want to encourage people to use multi-factor authentication to secure their account. So if you want to do a transfer, you log in on your computer and you log in on your phone and you do the transfer and you approve it on your phone, and now you're even more secure. There's lots of things there, but we want to make sure that it's easy for the normal users, because ease of use is number one when it comes to the system. And worst case scenario, it's like any other exchange where a hacker guesses your username and password and gets into your account and then withdraws all your funds. But
talking about the Open Ledger wallet is something I want to understand fully, and I'm not sure I completely do, because you say it's in JavaScript. I understand that, but the wallet portion, the thing that's unique to me and my accounts and all that stuff, that's got to be separate from the actual user interface kind of things that can be updated from time to time just to present another way of representing the wallet. But my specific data must not be wrapped up in the same way that GUI stuff is. Could you explain that? I'm quite confused about that, and I assume that the whole JavaScript realm of code is stored on a server somewhere. So I'm not sure what gets updated and how.
Well, the JavaScript's all kind of jumbled together. It's separated internally, but at the end of the day, it's JavaScript that gets downloaded to your browser. So the same browser is running the JavaScript. So if you can update the GUI, you can update the JavaScript for the wallet. And there's no way to keep the JavaScript separate, except maybe as a browser plugin.
So I guess the actual wallet that's specific to me, the data of my account and information related to me specifically, must be the cookie or something like a cookie, and the JavaScript that understands how to interpret the cookie data, that can be updated. Is that a fair analogy or understanding?
Yes, the data for your wallet is stored currently in local files on your computer in the browser. There's a browser side databases for each application, for each website you visit. It's kind of like a cookie on steroids. That is where everything's kept. But the JavaScript that knows how to read that, unlock it, decrypt your keys, is given from the server. I suppose it would be possible to store the JavaScript for the wallet on your computer as well, and then require you to manually approve that. The problem is that even if you had JavaScript stored on your computer, you could download new JavaScript that doesn't even care. It just goes and reads it anyway. So whether it's coming from the server or from the wallet doesn't matter. And oftentimes, if we want to add new preferences to the GUI, we want to have link new accounts or save market orientations, all those things have to get saved, and they change what gets stored in the wallet. So it's all just part of the overall architecture. I would say that our goal here, if you want to take a mile-high view, is that we should have a user experience at least as good as anything else out there that exists. with the potential to be more secure if users take it upon themselves to be more secure. What I don't want to do is say, well, our user experience is going to suffer because we're more secure. That's a good way to lose a lot of people.
Yeah, I think I'm done here for the most part. I just one last thing is if I make a backup from the Open Ledger wallet, that backup is essentially like the cookie, so that they can change the GUI and anything else in the JavaScript that's downloaded when I go to Open Ledger. But my backup file is my personal data, represents my accounts and my keys and everything else. So if I back that up, then it doesn't really matter whether the JavaScript portion that's on the server changes, because I've got my personal data saved away. Is that accurate?
It's your personal stuff, and it protects you against the server disappearing or your browser cache being cleared. It does not protect you against the server sending your browser new JavaScript code, you entering your password, and the new code decrypting what's still in the browser, grabbing your keys, and stealing your funds.
Okay, I got it. Thank you, Bytemaster. I'm sorry to monopolize so much time on this point, but I think it's really important, and I need to explain this to the people that are interested in BitShares.
You mentioned not too long ago, I think, the idea, or maybe you guys are working on this now, or it's just something in the future, of having an optional browser plugin that would, I don't know exactly how that would work. Would it prevent the server from sending malicious code? I guess that doesn't really make sense, though, because malicious code could be anything, right? Does it just lock it up so that you can't receive anything new and you're kind of stuck in the version that you're in? Or how exactly would that work?
Yes, it's sort of like the Light Wallet, except embedded in the browser. The JavaScript for the plugin is separate from the JavaScript of the page, and the page can only interface with the plugin through a specific API, and that the username and password for your keys are never given to the JavaScript of the page, and the page never has access to your private keys. It's basically like setting up a bridge between your Light Wallet desktop app and the page you're on by integrating them closely. There's a lot of stuff I don't know about what's possible with browser-sized plugins, but I'm sure there's lots of innovation there.
Okay, real quick, I'm going to try to get through 3 of these questions that haven't been asked. They're all very, at least general theme regarding cryptonomics. So the first one is from Carpet Ride. Could we elaborate on how cryptonomics and its exchange partners can set up sub-faucets to grow a sales force? E.g., registrar revenue could be split 10% wallet licenser, 5% wallet licenses, and 5% for salesperson. Salesperson would be able to sell to star power referrers, such as Warren Buffett, who could still make 60%. Thoughts on this?
That's a complex topic that I don't think we can get into right now. There's a lot of variables there regarding trust and delegation. You can't have indirect referrers tracked on the blockchain because nothing stops you from referring yourself or setting up your own registrar. There's just a lot of aspects to those things. So if you're looking at trying to set something like that, set up a call with us. We can talk about the options and go in that in greater detail.
The next question is from Ken Code, and he was asking if Cryptonomics has enough funding to go throughout the year of 2016.
I can't comment on the specifics of our funding arrangement, but I'm not worried for the foreseeable future.
And then here's Fox's. He says topic shift, which we've already shifted that topic, Fox. Cryptonomics priorities. It's a recent thread listing priorities. A testnet was outlined. Can you expand on CNX plans and the estimated time of arrival?
Sure. Our plan is to create a test net with a token that's called demo. It's going to be more than a test net. It's going to be a demonstration network, and it's going to be entirely run on a centralized server for the purposes of allowing users to try out the operations and to try out all the features. When you create a new account, we're going to pre-fund your account with a lot of tokens so you can have fun trying different things. The goal is to allow people to experience the user interface, potentially even depositing and withdrawing test net Bitcoins, just to see how it all goes. So that's what we're looking at doing right now. A lot of the new features will probably be rolled out on the demo network first, where users can test things without worrying about their funds being lost.
Well, that sounds awesome.
Tokens will have no value on the demo network because we're going to be giving them out for free. We can reset the network at any time if it's easier to reset than to code in a hard fork. This will be the purpose of this network will be slightly different than the BitShares we talked about before. BitShares was set up to test hard forking changes, and so it should only ever have the exact code that or code that would eventually be included, whereas the demo site can have experimental features that will never get included. It can be reset as necessary, and things like that. It also doesn't require coordination of a bunch of witnesses and a lot of resources on that front. The goal is to test the protocol, not the peer-to-peer network. Now, when it comes time to test network infrastructure, then we'll have a BitShares-like release or another test network for trying to reduce the block times from 3 seconds to something smaller. So, any other questions?
I would like to ask about the demo. It just occurred to me that I think there'll need to be a way to make an obvious differentiation between the demo and the proper BitShares versions, just because someone will make a mistake at some point if there isn't such a differentiation somehow.
The theme and colors choice of the wallet will be completely different.
Sounds good. Well, there's one more question that I think we can cover here. That was asked by iHashFury. This is a new topic, but something that is probably one of the more important topics for us to cover at this juncture in BitShares evolution. Can we use the committee members to agree on this new exchange direction fees and not change direction unless voters want a change? So we're going back to the fees. However, what really stands out to me is the committee member angle. What do you guys think about the committee members making this decision before a worker proposal is voted in? Or how do you guys see this role being? I think
that this direction, is going to be documented clearly in writing as a worker proposal. And if that worker proposal can get funding, that's a direct mandate from the stakeholders rather than an indirect mandate from committee members. So if the network and the users like the direction enough to fund the changes necessary to go in that direction, then I say that's a pretty direct sign that we've got stakeholder approval and consensus on the respective changes. What that means is I'd still like to see more committee members join the committee task force. And it'll probably be easier to have more committee members once we get the user interface to the point where you don't need to know how to use the command line wallet to vote in the committee. Until we've got enough people that are able to actively approve proposals, it's easier to have the committee parameter tweaking role in the hands of us so we can quickly do it.
While you're talking about the committee members, these init committee members, it seemed like the votes that they have kind of push out. There's been some committee members that have been pushed out because of the voting levels. And if the init voters weren't there, or votes for the init parties weren't there, then those other people would be actually active in the committee now. So why is it that the init members aren't being pulled back as people in the community are stepping up to provide leadership in the committee members?
If someone maybe you can do this for me. Give me a list of people that you want me to vote for that you've vetted and that you know will be able to be responsive, and I'll throw some votes to them as well. I don't want to pull back the votes for the committee members out of security concerns. So I need to proactively vote for additional committee members, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Also, this is a good time to say that I would really like to get the committee members getting together at a certain time, or at least as many of them as possible, for some hangouts to talk about, various proposals and things like that. And, just kind of start working on figuring out in real time what the committee members are going to be able to do, what they're not going to be able to do, and kind of have a level of transparency about it as we go about moving forward with it. They're generally public servants is how I see them, but I posted a thread, so if anybody is interested in joining these hangouts, please let me know by going to that thread. Let's move up to Ken Code's question, because Badix is kind of branching off of that. He says at Fuzzy, what kind of coders is CNX looking for the most right now? React, JS, C++, Python, question mark?
We're looking primarily for React and JavaScript.
Okay, and then Bedix is asking, are you going to create a guide on how to create an extension, i.e. smart contract, C++, React, JS components? This way new features can be easily added.
Yes, documentation is a huge part of our future effort. We really want to target developers as well. That is part of Cryptonomex' broader strategy for Graphene, which is independent of the business model for BitShares, but is still relevant. So we recognize the importance of documentation and are looking to make great strides in that department.
Awesome. Well, this is one of the areas that I really look forward to seeing who comes on board as BitShares matures and our self-governance. We have some people in our community really asking themselves a lot of questions regarding that right now. So looking forward to seeing everybody else's answers and seeing how this kind of grows on its own. But everybody, thank you for joining up. Bytemaster, is there anything that you would like to let anybody know about or bring anybody into?
I'm done for now. Look forward to making BitShares a successful exchange to the best of our ability. It should be very easy for everyone to understand BitShares in the direction where I hope the community decides to move.
Well, it sounds like you guys are, we're going through this metamorphosis is what I call it right now. And this is one of those places where BitShares 2.0 is not going to come out flawless. There's a lot more going on than just simple delegates. And we grew into the delegate phase, I think, to whatever degree we could. Maybe some of the tools weren't built yet or any of that stuff, but BitShares 2.0 seems like it's going to be awesome. It's just going to be kind of difficult at times at first for us to grasp all of it, build all the tools that need to be built. But we have a lot of community members working on that, and we're going to be rocking it. So thank you, everybody, for joining us to help rock it. Thank you, Bytemaster, for giving us information on your end to help us rock it. And happy anniversary, everybody, from BitShares.